All right, you guys. Michael Jackson's History album. It came out 30 years ago this month. This is Black Music Month, and what better way to start out than talking about one of Michael Jackson's most autobiographical works, the History album. Now, you would think that the estate would be doing something to celebrate it. Come on, I don't know what they're going to be doing, but we're doing something here on MJ Fangirl. I could not do it today without talking to one of our favorite guests here, hip hop choreographer, dancer, Michael Jackson fan extraordinaire, journalist, Chris Lacy. Welcome.
Hey, hey, happy to be back. How's everybody doing?
It's great to have you back, Chris. How you been?
I'm doing well, doing well. I'm happy, healthy, and employed, so I can't complain on my end.
I love that.
Yeah,
Now, I'm really excited because you're coming to us today with something special that you've been working on, and that we're going to be talking a lot about today. It's a celebration of the History album. Um,
that's right.
can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, for years I've wanted to write about the history album, but I wanted to make sure that my approach was something that um it wasn't just a rehash of what most people know. Like I want to make sure I'm bringing in a fresh perspective. So part of what inspired it was, I'm sure you've seen this too, like most mainstream publications tend to focus more on the allegations and the controversial public persona, but then on the other side of it you have fans that idolize Michael to the point as if he never made a mistake. So in my mind I'm thinking, okay, there's got to be some truth and some nuance in between. So for the last 5 months I've been working on it, and I'm so excited that it's finally done. I've shared it with you and a couple other people, and the responses I've been getting have been overwhelmingly positive. So yes, I'm here to talk about it with you.
Super exciting. Now, before we get into your project in full, we want to just go over for the folks that might not know some facts about the History album. So,
Yeah,
yeah, let's talk about it. History, Past, Present, and Future Book One release date was June 20th, 1995. This was Michael Jackson's ninth studio album if you're counting his Motown solo albums. Yep, here it is. Thank you, Solomon. And it was his first double album. I think it might have just been his only double album, really. They say first, but has he had any others? There have been other collections out there, but this was the one that I know of. Disc one was
yeah,
History Begins, which was all of his greatest hits. And then History Continues is the second disc with 15 brand new tracks. It debuted number one in multiple countries, including the UK, Australia, the USA, France, Germany, and was the best selling multiple disc album of all time by a solo artist. And there were five singles: Scream, You Are Not Alone, Earth Song, They Don't Care About Us, Stranger in Moscow. Some of the themes they touched upon were social justice, media criticism, pain, isolation, anger, history, and how it ties to a lasting legacy. That's a history album.
hmm
Um, so tell us about your article, because that's what it is. You're a journalist. You've done so many amazing articles about Michael Jackson, about different short films, about different songs. So, um, yeah, just let us know a little bit more about the article. What is it? What is it called? That's first of all, what is it called?
yeah,
And
yes,
yeah, the
yeah,
background info.
absolutely. So the title is going to be Michael Jackson's History Turns 30: Scream, Survive, Smile. So the reason why I mapped it out that way is that, Michael described the history album as a musical book. So as I was listening to it, I'm thinking, okay, I need to let the music tell me what it wants to be instead of me projecting myself onto it. Because again, that's a huge mistake that a lot of mainstream publications tend to do. And as I was jotting down notes, I was thinking, okay, like, man, like a lot of things are rising to the surface that, I'm trying to train my brain as if I haven't heard this album since I was five, because it came out when I was 5 years old. So hearing it, from a 35-year old's perspective, like a lot of things came to the surface of like, man, like it's been hiding in plain sight this whole time, but I'm finally getting it. Um, and then as far as like just mapping out the journey, my goal was to, take you through, um, just take you on a journey moment by moment, song by song. And the way that it opens is that I take you back to 1979. He's on tour with his brothers for the Destiny World Tour. And even though, he's getting all these cheers and, and stuff from the fans, he doesn't feel like he's truly been seen yet. So that I want to take everybody back to the secret letter that he wrote to himself of like, MJ will be my new name, no more Michael Jackson. So like he's writing this manifesto in a way. And then I take you through that journey of him, accomplishing those goals and the obstacles that he had to overcome. But then it's like, okay, well, if there's one thing that the world loves more than an icon, it's a fallen one. So then that's when I take you to 1993, and then I unpack all the allegations and the things that he was feeling inside and out at the time, and that sets the groundwork for him going into the history album.
I love that, and I love how you really, provide everybody with background and context. That was one of my favorite parts of the album of the article, and
Yeah.
I wanna also just talk about the fact that we talked about this when we discussed doing this episode, was the fact that this is the 30-year anniversary of the album, but yet
Hmm.
there are no celebrations going on from the
Yeah.
estate. There was just an email that came out not too long ago, probably 2 or 3 weeks ago now, from them that said, "Hey, the biopic, we're waiting for the biopic, and because of that, History 30 and all of our other projects have been pushed back."
Hmm.
So what do you what is your thought on that? Because in our
Uh,
notes, we have the refusal to celebrate it, because they are
yeah.
kinda refusing to celebrate it. I mean, no shade to the estate, but, like, they could still do a little something for us regardless of
Yeah.
the biopic.
No, I'm right there with you, and pardon the pun here. This isn't breaking news. This is a history lesson with the estate. So, um, no, I'm right there with you. Like it's, I had a feeling that it was going to fall under the radar, just like Blood on the Dance Floor did 5 years ago. Pretty much Dangerous 5 years ago. Really didn't get much recognition. So no, like I've anticipated, like hey, if the estate is not going to celebrate Michael's art, then it's on us, as the Michael Jackson fan community or Michael Jackson supporters to do that. So that's why I took it upon myself of like, okay, I know I want to do something for history, 30, but I need to figure out, if I'm just going to rehash what people have already seen, then there's no point in me writing it. So yeah, it is very unfortunate that the estate is using the biopic as the scapegoat because they could have celebrated the album several years ago, like even after Michael had passed. But yeah, all right, estate. You're just you're doing the same old stuff. Is basically my mindset. What about you?
Yeah, I do it is a disappointment for me because I am a fan of a lot of the official estate projects.
Hmm.
I tend to
Hmm.
like a lot of the merchandise that they put out, to be honest, even though I don't buy it very much, but I like the merchandise. I have enjoyed many of the documentaries they've put out. Even
Yeah.
Thriller 40, like even though I said, "Hey, this wasn't my favorite," but it wasn't bad. I would have taken something even like that, just a documentary on one of the streaming services or whatever, just to talk about the album. Heck, I would have even taken like a 20-minute documentary series with talking to some of the collaborators on the official Michael Jackson YouTube channel. That would have been enough for
Sure.
me.
Yeah.
I do think it is a missed opportunity because it's like, yes, Michael Jackson, he has his fans that are, around our age and kind of remember when this stuff came out and people that are before us. But when it comes to the younger generation, I feel like attention spans are fleeting. And what better time to celebrate an album than like an anniversary like the 10th, the 20th, the 30th? And
Yeah.
these songs are just so relevant. Today, one of the songs, "They Don't Care About Us," was used kind of like as one of the anthems of Black Lives Matter and all of that going on. So, like, I just don't see why they don't celebrate it. But I guess,
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, and maybe this is an unorthodox philosophy, but one thing that I've liked about the Prince estate is that they're not necessarily focused on, you know, uh, around the world in a day 35 or whatever. It's like if they put together a box set for, like they did for Sign of the Times that came out in, I want to say 2020, but the album came out in 87. So it's like, it's just a matter of can we put the best product that we can together and give it out there for the fans to enjoy. So I don't think it necessarily has to lock in with the album anniversary. It'd be great if it could. But that's one thing I do like about the Prince estate is that they're not necessarily concerned about the dates. They're more about getting the product right and making sure that all the dates align as far as like the content that they put on there, and then releasing it to the fans. So perhaps that's a philosophy that the estate can adopt one day, but we'll see what happens. But no, I agree with you 1000%, especially when it comes to the younger fans. There's a lot of folks that don't remember this album. They weren't even alive when it first came out. So yeah, golden opportunity to show the fans that there's more than to Michael besides off the wall thriller, bad and dangerous. Like there's a lot more greatness after that.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh,
Mhm.
and and thank you, by the way, for being here during Black Music Month. I think this is such a really cool thing. I don't remember this growing up, but I have heard more about it lately. And so I feel like the fact that this is the time to kind of celebrate Black music and recognize it. I want to play a really cool clip that I found just when I was looking online trying to see what cool clips I could find about the History album when we were having this conversation in preparation for this conversation today. I found a really cool ad and commercial for the album that I just wanted to play and get like your reaction to it.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see.
Okay.
Hey, 15 new songs, 15 greatest hits.
Wasn't that
That
awesome?
Yeah, that's such a cool spot. And hearing this time around on that guy's radio reminds me of, again, I was 5, 6 years old when the album came out, and I can remember hearing radio edits of this time around on the radio. So that you just took me back just now. Like my mom was in the Navy at the time, and we were living in Guam, and I can remember hearing Michael and Biggie on the same song at the same time. I was like, oh, this is so cool, like I didn't think I would hear the song on the radio. So you just took me back. That's awesome.
Yeah, like looking back at that, I'm like, I didn't even realize because I got into the History album way late, like into my
Oh,
high school
okay.
years. So I really didn't even really know about this time around until like I bought the CD way later on because my dad was not into, the History album. I don't even know if he has it. Um,
Wow.
but I recognized that it was not really a single or like a big hit. So to see it in the commercial was kind of interesting to me. And I was like, oh, this kind of shows that Michael Jackson always had his ear to the streets, like trying to pay attention to what the youth cared about. He knew
Right.
about Notorious B.I.G. and how big of an artist he was. Always also paying attention to like Black youth and what might be playing on the radio at the time. So I love that.
Yeah.
Um, so that's cool.
Yeah.
So talk to us about your approach with this article because this type of thing is not easy, to dig deep, to figure out what kind of things to point out to celebrate an album that really hasn't been celebrated enough. So can you kind of tell us about your approach in doing this?
Yeah, yeah. Kind of what I mentioned at the top of the conversation is, I've always seen these two extremes between, mainstream publications like really dismissing a lot of the musical integrity. They get more caught up in the controversy. And then you have fans that, again, they're very attentive to the music, but they idolize Michael to the point of like he's this god.
Yeah.
So I think what's interesting is the connection between those two extremes is that what's getting lost is the human being behind the music. So that's what I tried to do is I wanted to peel the curtain back a little bit and help people understand, like put you in Michael's mind and put you in his shoes, to understand. So by 1979, we're in his mind. We understand the manifesto and the ambitious goal that he wanted to make for himself as far as reinvention. And then by 1995, we feel his wounds, and I take you through song by song, so that way you could feel that and be like, okay, maybe I need to go back and listen to this song because now that I've seen what Chris had to say, I'll now have a greater appreciation for it. Or hey, yeah, I love this song already, but now, now my opinion is entirely changed. I thought I knew this song front to back, but now I have another way of looking at it, you know?
Yeah, and I love that. Um, and I feel like, one of my favorite parts of the article in general was just when you kind of took us back and, yeah, like you said, put us in his shoes, like the way that you really mapped it out. And I'm going to link the article down below for everybody to go read after this.
Yeah.
But the way you mapped it out, like you really showed us, okay, this is what he went through, when he branched out, going solo in the beginning, when he wrote his manifesto, down to like seeing everything come true and then kind of seeing it all kind of crash down in a way
Hmm.
around this time. And a lot of people say that like when you go through these trials and tribulations, this is some of people's most authentic work. And I think that
Hmm.
that was true for Michael Jackson. Like he had so many different things that he probably had been wanting to talk about and had just glossed over in the
Yeah.
past. Like you go from the Bad album talking about Leave Me Alone to now he's Tabloid Junkie and Money and like being more direct about it. Um, so yeah, so I mean, I love the stories that you used. I want to tell everybody a little bit about my favorite parts of the article, if that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Go for it. Yeah. Go for it. I'm curious.
Yeah, so for me, like I said, I love the introduction, and I love parts of the article that kind of make me think. Um,
Hmm.
Particularly Tabloid Junkie kind of made me like look at myself and kind of like, okay, yeah, I do take part, even though he says you don't have to read it and all that stuff. To buy it is to feed it, all that. And yeah, I have read some tabloid articles every now and then during his
Hmm.
life, and every now and then even now, because I'm like, oh, what's happening? And I want to know. But yeah, I mean, you kind of made me look back at myself and wonder what is my
And
part in this? What was my role in this feeling that Michael Jackson had?
yeah, and no, that's good. Like and again, I'm speaking to myself because I'm part of the community right there with you. So, throughout the article, like I want you to say amen as much as you say ouch, and I think that's exactly what Michael wanted us to do as well. Is like, okay, like, like I'm ready to celebrate you, but I also understand I have a part to play in this as well. So yeah, like and I'm so glad that you mentioned the biopic at the top of the conversation, because a lot of what I've seen around the biopic kind of relates to what we're talking about now with Tabloid Junkie. Is like people are feeding on these rumors and wanting to do reaction videos so they could be first. Like
Yes.
the need to be first is like that's the new high. And a lot of people are junkies over that stuff. So like to me, like that's what makes a song like Tabloid Junkie timely and timeless. Is that we are not like we're nodding along to the song, we're humming to it. We're hitting share, we're hitting send on the different things that have to do with Michael Jackson. But are we taking the time to read the warning label on the poison that we're spreading? I don't know if we are.
It's so true. It's so true. And like that need to be first. That hits for me, especially like, making content online. I'm always like, all right, I want to post about this first, but I want to also make sure that I know what I'm talking about and that there's like
Right.
a little bit of truth to it. But then when you're
Hmm.
not first, it's kind of like, oh, this person's gonna get all the views. So like, yeah,
Yep.
it's and the same thing with the tabloids, like, you're looking around saying, okay, who's gonna post about this first? I think I had seen not too long ago some fans posting some things about the biopic, and I was just like waiting, waiting, waiting. I'm like, okay, let me see if people.com picks this up or Variety or
Hmm.
someone a little bit more credible. So yeah, I loved that.
Good.
And it
I'm glad.
and another part about this article that I really love is, it really kind of makes me want to go back and listen to
Good.
some of these songs that I had not listened to in a long time.
Hmm.
Come Together, Smile, the way that you break
Yeah.
down Smile in this. And for people that don't know, like this song is, I feel like this is one of the best outros to an album that Michael Jackson has. Like,
Oh wow, I didn't know you felt that way.
yeah, the best, because it really, I don't know, it just really felt like it just wrapped me up in a nice warm hug. And that's what I like to feel when
Mm.
I listen to Michael
Yeah.
Jackson songs, especially after like the emotional roller coaster of the
That's
rest of the
true.
album.
Hmm. No, no, I'm right there with you. Like the vast majority of this record is angry. Like it's the angriest that we've ever heard him, and rightfully so. But yeah, I would say like from yeah, I would say from childhood to Smile, like those last five songs, you start to kind of see him like he's got a lot of that pent up aggression out. So now it's a matter of him making that turn. And it's like he brings us to the center of his trauma, which is really his lost childhood. And then from there, we see him rise and start to focus on other things that are more important to him, like every step you take, you're leaving your legacy, and then pivoting to doing a song like Lil Susie, which in most people's minds is like, what is this doing on a mainstream pop record? But a song
Yeah.
like that matters to Michael because he understood the abandoned. And then, like you said, when it came to Smile, it's like, it's such a good bookend. The album opens with a scream and it ends with a smile. And what we hear in between is a man surviving and just refusing to give up. So I wanted to capture all of that in the article. So I'm glad that you came out of it feeling like it was like a warm hug, to use your words. That's awesome.
Yeah. Now you mentioned Scream, so I want to take a look. We have some pictures of Michael in Scream,
Yeah.
just because we love to have the visuals. If
Yeah.
we could pull this up, yes. So we got Michael here in Scream. There's another picture and another, which this has got to be my favorite. I love this
Yeah.
picture.
This is a good one. Hmm.
And then we've got Michael and Janet
Yeah.
to open the album. And I think this is just so powerful because you've got, Janet here when she was at the top of her game and Michael was not as, not that he wasn't at the top of his game, but it wasn't like bad Thriller era for him at that moment,
Right. Yeah.
And so to have his sister jump on this track and then they made just this powerful statement was just really, really cool to see.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And what was fascinating was that Scream was the first time that Michael and Janet had worked together since Thriller, because she did the background vocals on PYT with Latoya and a couple other girls. So, like you said, like Janet at this time is at her commercial peak. She's doing albums. She's been doing movies like Poetic Justice with Tupac. Just came out. A couple years prior to this. And the self-titled, or not self-titled, but the Janet album, which to me is, I would argue that's probably her best, although I'm a sucker for Rhythm Nation. But I totally get anybody that says that Janet is like her best album. I totally get that. So, but yeah, like at the time the culture felt like Janet was more in tune with the streets, or with the youth, than Michael was, despite the success that he had in the 80s. So um I thought it was great. And if anybody has seen Janet's documentary, you see footage of Michael and Janet in Trump Tower writing Scream for the first time. So that was that to me was golden. I loved watching all that. It was beautiful.
Yes, I just seeing that, honestly, you talking about it now and then seeing that, I got goosebumps when I first saw that because I was just like, wow, how
Yeah.
often do we get to be in the middle of that creative process? Just like seeing them jotting something down on a notebook that I
Hmm.
probably listened to hundreds of times on my walks to school, on my Walkman, and you've got these
Right.
two real people, siblings, brother and sister, just hashing it out. And he's like, Mom is not gonna like, mother's not gonna like us,
Right.
including this word.
Yeah, and in my article, whenever break down Scream, I do reference Jimmy Jam's interview with Sean Stockman from Boyz II Men. Like, he breaks down what it was like to record Michael in the studio, and I love hearing Jimmy Jam tell stories. He's a master storyteller. Like, he's so good about making you feel like you're right there watching. And he described Michael as like the Tasmanian devil. Like, he's spinning and performing. Like, he's performing in the studio as if it's a packed stadium. So. And then I mean, I feel like I'm giving so much away in the article, but that's okay. Um,
People read
but
the article, okay? You guys,
yeah,
listen. You have to read the article because this conversation is just scratching the surface.
yeah, it is.
Read
It
this
is.
article because it will definitely, definitely take you through the album. You got to read it, listen to each track. So don't just hang up on, don't not just hang up like as if we're on FaceTime with everybody. Don't
Right.
just stop. Don't just pause the the episode. Make sure
Yeah.
that you're actually listening and reading his article. I feel like
Yeah.
medium.com, don't they have something where you could it'll read it to you? I think I saw
Yeah,
that.
that's right. Yeah, yeah. You can listen to the article being read to you, and then also, as I go song by song, I do put the YouTube videos. I put at the beginning of each song, so if you want to listen to the song as you're reading, like, it just puts you in the mood and really locks you in. So I did that as a treat to the fans that want to take the time to read it. So
Cool,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Now I wanted to ask you because I know you had mentioned when we had talked about this, some producers, kind of like some greats that you referenced when you kind of laid out your plan for writing this article.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. So as I was writing this, I followed Michael's advice of letting the music tell me what it wants to be, and then studying the greats. So there's quite a few storytellers that I enjoy. Carl Duker, Wesley Morris, he writes for the New York Times. Scoop Jackson writes for the Chicago Sun Times. And then Dennis O'Neil, for any comic book fans out there, he wrote dozens of legendary comic stories for both Marvel and DC. So I studied these four, and I'm like, okay, there's a pattern to their storytelling, and what exactly is it? So I was able to break it down in three things: is that they start with force, they stay on the image, and then they end with proof. Like there's like a slam dunk statement at the end. You're like, man, that felt good. So I took that approach with this, and again, combine some things that people already knew about the album, but again, wanted to bring some fresh insight as far as like things that I picked up on during my listening sessions. So I think that's what made the article stand out and connect with you whenever you read it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
And one of the other things I like is that you go track by track, and you make some references to some. You make us think about some things, and I'm not going to give it away, but there are a
That's
couple
okay.
things that you referenced where I was like, okay, I need to go look this up. Open another tab, where I was
Hmm.
like, okay, what is Chris referencing? And you give so many, um, like little tidbits, like food for thought, and I
Yeah.
really enjoyed that.
No, no, yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that too, because that reminds me. So one cool thing I love about Medium is that if you see a word that's underlined on my article, you can tap that word and it takes you directly to the source that I'm referencing. So you don't have to open up a bunch of tabs. You can just click it right there. And so for little
Oh.
Susie, I referenced the Ebony Jet magazine interview they did back in 1992. And under the word said, if you tap that word, it takes you directly to the Ebony Jet magazine interview, so you can see exactly where the quote came from. So if anybody's watching this and you are reading the article, there's a reason that the words are underlined. So just tap that, and it takes you directly to the source.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
Here I was
yeah.
opening a million tabs. I could have been doing that all along.
That's okay. That's okay. No worries.
So I want to get into a little. I love how we're just talking here about the article, and then we're also sprinkling in a little bit of tidbits about songs in between. I want to talk about "Stranger in Moscow" because to
Yeah, yeah.
me, just such a great song, and I don't think it's underrated. I just think that it's not talked about enough. I think the people that know it love it and appreciate it,
Yeah,
but it's not talked about enough. And so I want to just kind of, first of all, I want to look at some of these pictures of Michael
yeah, yeah. Let's go for it.
from the video or short film.
Hmm.
So here he is, and here's another one
Yeah.
of them recording. Which, by the way, the estate needs to release some of the footage of him recording this. Like, come on.
I agree. I agree. Yeah. If there is footage out there, man, I would love to see that. And real quick, what is it about Stranger in Moscow that sticks out to you? Like, why do you feel like fans don't talk about it enough compared to like Billie Jean or Man in the Mirror or Rock with You, things like that? Like, what makes you think that it should be up there with those masterpieces?
Well, I love the fact that he is such a part of the musicality of it, like the
Mm,
beatboxing.
yeah.
I love the layers of different sounds that he uses, the rain. I think that, and okay, I will say this. I think that Michael Jackson fans, like all of us, we have strong associations to the visuals of the
Hmm.
songs. And I don't know, I mean, I like the music video, the short film, but it's not something that I'm like, "Oh, let me go turn on Stranger in Moscow short film," very much.
Right.
And so and
Right.
then the other visual that we have is the history tour where it's more like, just the robot and the very smooth dancing, but it's not anything that is as impactful as like a Smooth Criminal or a Thriller, and it's not. I don't think it's meant to be. I think it's the
Right.
meaning is more so in, like, the lyrics and, like, the emotion that he's trying to convey, but that's
Hmm.
why I think, like, that people don't talk about it much.
No, that's fair. That's fair. And I'm right there with you when it comes to the short film. It doesn't demand my attention like a Smooth Criminal, Thriller, or even Remember the Time. It is in its own lane. And like you said, I think it is by design, is that Michael wanted to paint a different picture. It's as vivid. I mean, like you can see the care and thought that's put into it, but it is very different. It's not meant to entertain you. It's meant to make you feel something more so than anything.
Absolutely.
And then when it comes to how the song was made, I'm gonna geek out for a second. Um, that song, I remember it was such an aha moment to me. So I grew up playing Sega Genesis, so like Sonic the Hedgehog to this day, still a huge Sonic fan. And at the end of Sonic the Hedgehog 3, during the end credits, you hear a sped up version of Stranger in Moscow.
Really?
Because Brad Buxer and Michael and like he had a hand in the soundtrack for the video game. And when I first heard Stranger in Moscow, I was like, oh my gosh, this sounds like the end credits to Sonic 3. And sure enough, years later, it made sense. Um, and then to know that the same people that made Human Nature also had a hand in making Stranger in Moscow. So to me, I love that connection between having members of Toto, do the synthesizers and things like that. Like it has that cinematic quality that Human Nature has in my mind. So I love Stranger in Moscow. To me, it is an indisputable masterpiece. So I'm right there with you.
I love that. Now,
Yeah.
we before we move on to another song, because I want to talk briefly about another song, but we have to hear from
Yeah.
Michael himself. We have to hear from Michael. What did he have to say about Stranger in Moscow? I have a cool clip, and
Yeah.
we'll take a look at it right now.
What inspired the song Stranger in Moscow?
Chattanooga, Tennessee. Stranger in Moscow. I wrote that in Moscow when the lyrics are totally autobiographical. It's when you hear lines like, here abandoned in my fame, Armageddon of the brain. And at the time, that's on the last tour when we were in Moscow, that's really how I felt. And it kind of created itself. It fell into my lap because that's how I was feeling at the time. Just all alone in the hotel. And it was raining, and I just started writing it.
Man, it's like your heart breaks for him, but then you still see the genius, and for him to take that emotion and then express it in a way that all of us can understand to a degree. Like we weren't on the level of fame that Michael was, but every one of us knows what it feels like to be lonely. So to me, that speaks to the genius that he was, is taking a universal emotion. While it was very personal for him and his level of fame, it's still universal because we know what it's like to feel that.
Absolutely. Uh, yeah, I just can't say it any better.
That's okay. It's okay.
So now we get into a song like Earth Song, which I think is always
Mm,
interesting to talk about, and have a couple pictures of Michael in Earth Song here.
yeah.
This was one of the pictures, by the way, that I printed out on my parents' color printer, and they were like, "Why are you using up all our ink to print out this picture of Michael Jackson?" And I put it on the wall in my
Oh
bedroom.
man.
But this would use up like your whole red cartridge.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Here's another here's another picture of Michael in the video, and we had a couple. This was a
Yeah.
very impactful video. Let's see. Let's make sure I don't go too far. There we go. That's the last one. Very
Mhm.
impactful video. Very impactful song. Any thoughts about Earth Song? Any cool tidbits that you could share that are not in your article?
Yeah, yeah, I'm trying to think of what can I share that's not already in there. Yeah, I'm having a hard time. Like I'm trying not to repeat anything that, yeah, because I that's what I tried to do, is like I didn't want to take a bunch of rehashed information. I
Yeah,
wanted to speak on, try to approach it from another way that most people wouldn't think of. But I can tell you that one thing that I do appreciate about Michael is that just knowing that this song originated during the bad era, and he could have released it anytime before 1995, but he trusted his instincts and said, it's not quite ready yet. So, I mean, that song just built for 8 years, and he worked with Bill Bottrell and then eventually David Foster, and then built it into what we know it to be today. And the inspiration for that was he was in his hotel room in Vienna, Austria, and this was during the bad tour. You know, he just got done performing like a sold out show, and he can't sleep because he's like his level of empathy, like he could hear the earth like crying out in a variety of ways. So that's where the inspiration started, and just for the next 8 years, he just continued to develop it into what we know it to be today. And um like the final 2 minutes of like when he's just going like full out, like you can hear his voice breaking. And I mean it levels me every time I hear it. But what about you?
I have to agree with you when it comes to the ad libs. First of
Mm,
all, thank you for sharing that story because I didn't realize that it had originated so early on.
yeah.
That's so many years prior to the release, and it
Hmm.
makes me wonder like how many artists today do they work on songs for 6, 10 years? Like I don't know, some might, but
Yeah, some might.
at the time, um, Michael Jackson was, he was working on so many songs at so many different points of his life and
Hmm.
creating different iterations of them and then finally releasing them. So, yeah, thank you for sharing that. And the ad
Hmm.
libs of this song are always so powerful. The short film is so powerful. And I
Yeah.
love how Michael Jackson is able to make us listen to a song just about like the earth and caring about our planet.
Hmm.
Something that I think a lot of artists don't talk about in such a direct way. Again, very direct, like literally speaking about what about elephants? What about the trees?
Yeah.
You know, talking about air pollution. I can't even breathe. Like
Yeah.
literally talking about what we need to do to make things better. And so it also kind of brings me back to seeing him do this song live, like on
Yeah.
stage, and how he kind of like brings in the whole thing about war and stopping war and
Hmm.
how that all ties into like the earth. And because I feel like Michael Jackson's underlying meaning of everything that he was talking about was just all about love and loving each other
Hmm.
and caring about each other and in turn also caring about the earth and our planet. So
Yeah.
Earth Song is also one of my favorites.
Yeah, and I love what you said there towards the end about just the deeper meaning of the song, because it reminds me of and by the way, I did mention this in when I talked about the title track. I love how he sampled himself talking about I don't sing it if I don't mean it. Like I love that he sampled himself, and that meaning, you can hear that in all 15 brand new songs on the History album. As far as like the new material, but I think more so than any song on the album, you really feel that on Earth Song. So yeah, that's another indisputable masterpiece, and it's a shame that a lot of American critics just dismissed it, like they called it, over the top and sappy and what have you. But in Europe, it soared to number one in 15 different countries. So what I love about that response is that grief translates, and it doesn't have an accent. Like anybody can have a heart for something that's broken. So I think that to me is the secret of why Earth Song is such a powerful song to this day.
Yes, yes. Thank you for sharing that. And
Yeah.
you know, again, back to your article, we're going to be linking it down below. I want to get your final thoughts on the article, but also I want you to share with us that, I've heard that someone that worked on the album actually gave you some feedback on this article. So tell us more about that.
That's true. That's true. So yeah, Brad Sundberg, longtime engineer, started working with Michael from Captain EO all the way up to Blood on the Dance Floor. So we're talking at least 12 years, with some overlap. Um, it's so funny, just the trajectory of Brad's involvement in my life. Like he went from being a name that I read about in the liner notes, because I used to read the booklets and be like, oh, I want to know who did this, and like I'm fascinated by that. So he went from being a name that I saw in the liner notes of Michael Jackson's albums to me landing an opportunity to interview him during COVID. And then after that, he and I started slowly developing a friendship. And when I sent him my Dangerous 30 article 5 years ago, he said, Chris, this is good, but it's short. I wanted you to keep going. I was like, okay, like I love your candid feedback, so I'll keep that in mind for the next piece. So then fast forward to now, with History 30. So I sent him the link because he's been traveling doing the in the studio with MJ seminar. And I happened to catch him when he was in Toronto and he was about to fly back home to Orlando. And he's instead of just texting me, he sent me a long voice message. And he said, Chris, this was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. You reignited a spark in me to dig into history. And he even said like he kind of felt a little embarrassed because he loves danger so much that he tends to kind of focus on it in the seminars. But now he's thinking that he needs to go back and kind of, beef up the history segment because of the things that I was able to, bring to the surface in the article. So, and then my heart almost bursted when he said, like, Chris, I'm proud to know you. Like, that's just so cool to go from being a random name in an album that I love to now someone who is a dear friend and says that he's proud to know me. Like, if you would have told me that years ago, I'd be like, there's something wrong with you. Like, you need to get out of here. I don't believe you.
That is just so cool. And,
He is, yeah.
yeah, Chris, like, thank you for writing this article because as we've talked about in this, very under-celebrated, under-talked about, underappreciated album, and you've kind of brought it back to life and brought it back to the surface for us. So everybody go ahead and check out this link down below and go check out Chris's article. Leave a comment and follow him on Medium because he does share lots of other articles about Michael Jackson he's shared in the past, and he's written lots of cool things. So before I let you go, I have to talk to you. I think we got a little bit more time here. I got to talk to you about this biopic.
Yeah, let's go. What you got?
So I have a news article. I just printed it out on my printer before I got here. I'm not even going to say breaking news, but I'm going to say it's new news. Michael Jackson biopic likely to move to 2026. Shocked face.
Yeah.
Okay, so it says Michael Jackson fans will have to wait a bit longer for Antoine Fuqua's biopic, Michael, which carries a roughly $155 million budget, also stars Coleman Domingo and Nia Long as family heads Joe and Catherine. It says here, during Liongate's Q4 2025 earnings call, CEO John Feldheimer shared an update on the film starring Jackson's nephew, Jaafar Jackson, who makes his big screen debut in the project. In regard to our Michael Jackson biopic, we're excited about 3.5 hours of amazing footage from producer Graham King and Antoine Fuqua, and we will be announcing a definitive release strategy and timing in the next few weeks, he said. I would note that it is likely we will move Michael out of the fiscal year, which will impact fiscal 26 financial results, but will bolster an already strong fiscal 27 slate. So, by the way, everybody, the fiscal year ends on March 31st, 2026. So basically, this means that the film is now coming out after April 2026. Chris, thoughts, opinions, disappointment at all for you like it is for me?
Yeah, I'm feeling all the things right now. I'm trying to be as fair as I can be about this because again, I know there are a lot of moving parts to making a movie. It's not it's much bigger than just having a good script and a good cast. Like there's a lot of things that go into it. From what I've read online so far, it's believed that the pending legal case with Wade Robson, James Safechuck, and all that is a factor in this. So I'm kind of torn on how to interpret that. Again, are they using that as a scapegoat, or are they just trying to address that court case as quickly as possible? And then once it's out of the way, then it's like full steam ahead for the biopic. So I'm kind of leaning more towards the optimistic side. I'm thinking that they want to address this court case and get it out of the way so it's not a distraction for when it's time to promote the movie. But that's my stance. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I do. It does bring a lot of questions into my mind when I think about the fact that the reason that's been given is, hey, we realize that we've shot footage around this court case that we realized we couldn't use. I mean,
Hmm.
this is the same estate that was aware that like HBO had a special clause in their contract years ago when they
Yeah.
did the Dangerous Live in Bucharest special that they could never do anything that would disparage Michael's name or put out um, any programs like that, which they did, and then the estate ended up
Right.
winning in court and all that, to my knowledge. So I'm
Hmm.
shocked that they could film an entire movie, center the script around this case, beginning and
Hmm.
end, from what I've heard, and now they have to scrap all of that. To be honest with you, I'm hoping that that's not the case. I hope that it's all, because no one's really confirmed that. It's all still been hearsay. Of
Yeah.
course, we have like deadline.com, variety.com, but again, like not necessarily that these are tabloids, but these are all publications that are fighting to be first. Like, how
Yeah.
accurate is this information? Lionsgate hasn't said that, right? They just
Hmm.
said, hey, the movie's coming out in 2026 now, probably. Estate hasn't said anything beyond, hey, we're just waiting on Lionsgate and GK Films, which we know is not completely true, but they're trying to
Right.
also distance themselves from the fact that this biopic is now taking way longer than they expected. Um,
Hmm.
but I just hope that they've done their due diligence with this. And I have full faith that this is going to be a really great biopic. It's going to be record breaking, but I hope that things are not falling apart behind the scenes. That's my hope. Because I'm like, how could something be now a whole year later? It's just, I mean, more than a year, because it's going to be after 20 April. It's going to be after April 2026, more than likely. The original
Right.
date was April 2025. So
Hmm. Yeah, I'm right there with you. Like I'm hoping that there isn't. I hope they're not imploding behind the scenes. Because to know, like, production wrapped up last summer. I think it was like June or July is when it wrapped up. So to know that, I mean, it's basically the film is in the can. And to my knowledge, it's like fully edited. But then, like you said, I saw the same report where it's like, okay, there could be some parts in here that we have to take out for legal reasons. So it's like, okay, well, how much of that it has to come out? Number one, and then number two, how's that going to affect the rest of the story now that you have to take this huge chunk out? Like, is that going to require lengthy reshoots and having to invite everybody back on set and then having to, you know, work on the script to make it coherent because now you're having to take this huge chunk of it out. So I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts to this. So I'm gonna try to be optimistic, but there's still a part of me that's kind of jaded because of the estate not being as transparent as I would like for them to be. But I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, as far as if they're still trying to gear for Oscar season, then I think realistically we're still looking at September, October of 2026 at this point, which is not a fun thing to say because
wow.
that's typically when most Oscar movies tend to get promoted. So um, I would love for it to come out during the summer. I think that would be a fantastic time. Like it would be like, okay, like this is the summer of MJ. Like if it came out, like that would sell
Yeah.
itself. But yeah, if it's going to be after April 2026 and they're gearing for Oscar season, then yeah, it would probably be in the fall that we would see the movie come out. So we'll see.
The only thing I think that gives me a little bit of like optimism about this extended timeline now is that perhaps they will now have an even more extended marketing campaign for this movie.
That's a
Uh
good point.
yeah, I mean, the whole thing, it like is, it's been pushed back so many times, and I was having this conversation with another fan the other day about, okay, I hope this doesn't kind of like ruin the movie in the public's eyes, but I think it's only us fans that are keeping up with these updates.
Yeah,
Like,
pretty much. Yeah.
right? Like, I don't think people are keeping up with this kind of stuff outside of us.
Yeah, because and again, I'm trying to think like in the general audience sense, they don't start paying attention to a movie until they start seeing promos for it. And at this point, we haven't seen anything. I mean, apart from some small
Yeah.
announcements here and there, some leaked photos, things like that. But yeah, to the mass audience, until they see a full TV ad or they see something like as they're scrolling through social media and they see an official trailer, in their mind it doesn't exist yet. So you're right. I think we're making it more important than it needs to be because we want to see this make history. I'm not going to pardon the pun since we're talking about history, but um But no, like we want this to do so well, and given the track record of the folks that are involved, with Lionsgate, Bohemian Rhapsody was a huge hit. Like, so we want to see Michael, raise the bar as high as possible and be like, okay, Michael's up here. Can you top this?
Absolutely. And, I just think about, the fact that the family is so heavily involved in this and
Yeah.
they have mentioned a couple of things that, well, at least I know like Taj's documentary, he mentioned, well, he doesn't want to release his and, to be
Mhm.
along the same timeline of the biopic. So now I'm like, okay, is that going to be pushed back again? As
Yeah.
well as the estate had released their in their email that they have kind of paused some of the projects that they're working on to kind of
Mhm.
let the biopic lead the way. So it does make me wonder, are we going to get anything going on in the Michael Jackson world? And it's funny because I haven't even seen, and they do this every year, but there's also the yearly annual party that they have for Michael Jackson's birthday in Vegas in August.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious as to if they're still going to have that because you know that the fans are all going to be trying to grill the
Mhm.
estate about the movie. So
Yep.
remains to be seen. Yeah, but Chris, thank you so much for being here. Everybody,
Thank you.
check out Chris Lacy's article. We're linking it down below. Chris, tell them where they can find you online.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Facebook is ChrisLacy. Instagram is ChrisLacy1990. And then on Twitter, if you want to find me there, it's ChrisLacy0215.
Amazing. Hopefully, you'll come back and join us again so we can chat about some more Michael Jackson soon.
Yeah, I'd love to. And again, thank you so much for inviting me back. It's always fun to talk with you and then engage with the folks that are following your channel. I'll be paying attention to the comments section. If anybody has any questions for me, I'm always down to talk about Michael.
Yes, yes. Leave your comments down below. And everybody, thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode with Chris Lacy celebrating the 30th anniversary of Michael Jackson's History album. If you're interested in listening to the full episodes before anybody else, make sure that you're joining the MJ Fangirl Patreon, patreon.com/MJ Fangirl, because that's where I release not only these ad-free in-studio episodes before they get dropped for anybody else, but I also have some candid story times. I'm even getting very honest with you guys about what I thought about seeing The Wiz in theaters, like actually seeing it on the big screen and what I took away from that. Talking to you guys about my real feelings about this biopic postponement and all that. So join the Patreon, you guys, to get to know me a little bit more. Also, make sure you're subscribing to the YouTube channel, MJ Fangirl TV, and listening to us on all podcast platforms. Club 30s with MJ Fangirl, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, you name it. And I will see you guys in the next episode.